next column, number 5, is department request. Looking at what do we project either coming in on those revenue line items, and under the expenses, on the expense side, is what do the various departments expect to spend this next year, and that will be under the department request. Budget committee is what we're looking at now. After looking at all the data, going back to the department, questioning their requests, asking could they cut, and we did go back to some of the departments where we saw some opportunities, and I think we ended up with approximately 80,000 of additional cuts as we were looking through our budget, and the department head were very generous and said we're willing to give that up, but realize if I run short, I may have to come back and ask for something, because on some of these budgets, they are not very large budgets, and one piece of equipment would cost them to go over the appropriation in their particular department. But they were willing to cut their budgets. The last one is filled out, and that is only assuming that everything is approved by you after we meet and work on the approval of the budget. If something is changed, and whatever the change may be, will be reflected in column 7. If there's a change in a particular department or a particular line item that will change any number, that number will be reflected in column 7. It will become the final budget. That will become the commissioner's budget at that particular time. So the first 8 pages is the revenue side. If you look at page 7, it tells you where we ended up last year, where we budgeted. We budgeted $10,386,311 for our budget. We ended up bringing in $10,561,159, and for this year, we're budgeting $10,744,832 to come in for this coming up budget year. If you look at the expense side, I think it's page 24, 25. That'll show you pretty much where we expect it to come out. And let me run through the numbers for last year's budget. I'll get these pages separated. Our budget last year, 12-13, we budgeted $11,193,749. That was the original budget that was approved. You can see some amendments were made down through the year, that took the amended budget up to $11,434,45. Now that could be some additional grants or other things that were amended for that particular year. We actually spent $10,463,648, and department request for this year, $11,375,909 compared to $11,193,749 last year. Budget committee looked at that, made some cuts along the way, and dropped it from $11,375,909 to $11,319,577. So that's what's in there being projected right now. If you look at the back page, page 25, it tells you where the fund balance is. As you can remember, last year when I think we met until 11 o'clock that night just to get to a balanced budget status, and we ended up projecting about $22,000 in our fund balance at an 85% budget. This year we're looking at $413,102 at an 85% budget, assuming that the revenues come in as projected and the expenditures are pretty much on target. That's what we are projected to end up with for this fiscal year. Now, there are several things that I wanted to just kind of talk about as far as recap for last year. Talked about the expenditures, revenues, and all of that. We only had, as I think Jerry mentioned, we only had one department that went over the original budget, and that was the animal department. Mainly because of increased number of runs. And when they have an increased number of runs, you deal with not also dealing with drugs and medical supplies. We're dealing with increased overtime and salary increases. And they went over about 17,000. But even with that, the amount of revenue that was collected, they ended up with $53,000 roughly in the black. So they paid their way, even going up with increased rise. Property tax collection last year was estimated to be at about 97.3%, which was a stellar year for property tax collection. The year before that, we got around 88.4%. So that was a real improvement in that particular area. One of the areas I also wanted to point out is under contract of prison for state inmates. In 2009-10, we brought in $214,305 during that particular year. And it's estimated for this past year, 12-13, we brought in $721,000 for state inmate reimbursement. Two things have happened over the years. I mean, we were down in 2002-3. We were only bringing in $70,000, $80,000 in total. But every year, some of you who've been on the commission for a long time, we would pass a resolution accepting the minimum amount that the state would pay. And there was a belief that the decertification of the jail was tied to the county not being able to get any more than the minimum amount. I attended a conference in Chattanooga, and one of the sessions that was taught in that particular session was dealing with jail certification, state inmate reimbursements. And I just wanted to find out that it was not tied to decertification at all. And I got with Bobby Phillips at CTAS, and he started submitting our application into the state with data being supplied by my office and the sheriff's office. And our state inmate reimbursement went from $18 to $34 immediately. So that was we was losing money on that. We just didn't know at that particular time. So we're getting that, and since then we gotten up to $35, which is was the max prior to last year, $35 per day per state inmate, and it did go up an additional $2 last year, so it's at $37 now. We're getting the max, and we're supplying that data to the state. And this year is the last year that we really have to supply that data because we have certified that the data that we have and the cost of inmates does match what they're looking for. So that has been one significant increase in revenue for us. No across the board salary increases given in the last 4 years for employees. That's been mentioned. Last year, as we struggled to get a balanced budget, we reduced the employee education incentive to cut that in half. No funding to the true nonprofit agencies. We stopped that last year. The year before that, we had cut it in half, except for the rescue squad. The rescue squad is still getting, and the commissioners, you guys voted to make sure they continue to receive their funding. And that is still left in here this particular year. And we made some significant cuts across various departments to help get to that balanced budget status. Right after we approved our budget, when we was projected to come up with $22,000 on the fund balance, assuming all revenues come in as projected and expenditures were to be spent as projected, I got a letter from the comptroller's office stating that, and I think I shared this with you already, that Whitesville had two businesses that we were receiving sales tax dollars on. And they go back, once that is determined, they go back 1 full year. And we have to pay that back. That was to the tune of $72,000 that we had to pay back last year. We finished paying that in June. And not only did we have to pay the $72,000 back, but we had projected to receive that $72,000 on the revenue side because we just didn't have that data prior to passing the budget. So that was a loss, total loss to the county of $144,000. That 72 we did not receive that we were projected to receive, and then the 72,000 that had to be paid back. That put us in even a tighter line, and it kind of ate away at some of the 85%, the 12 percentage points above the 85% that we budgeted for. So that has been paid back. We also, due to a shortage of cash flow, we borrowed $472,000 from debt service account. get enough cash flow to get us through the first half of the year. As I mentioned, reference tonight, as she passed the resolution and mentioned in the last meeting, we are now at the point of having to position ourselves for borrowing to get us through the first half of the year due to cash flow. So that's kind of where we are. As a recap, there are a few things that was not funded. We had a request from Baldwin City Fire Department. I think the council had asked Chief Price to come to us and ask for $10,000 to help support the funding of a water tank pumper, and we told them that we just didn't have the funds. Mr. Ross asked for funding, support, and help. We just did not have the funding. We had, as you remember, we had two individuals that came to us to present a presentation regarding the veteran cemetery in Henderson County. And the cost was basically based on the number of veterans that each county has. And they were asking and did request a total of $25,000 from Hardeman County. I support veterans. They've done a good job for this country. And we are here because of them living safely. But at the same time, our budget is at a point where we can't do some of those things. There are some things that we have to prioritize. Again, employees not getting a raise, and those kinds of things are, important to us. Other things keep going up, like benefits, medical benefits. We were able to keep medical benefits down to around 4% increase this year, and in your budget as well as last year, because we have a HRA, a health reimbursement arrangement. We have $30,000 in the budget for liability exposure. Now, that's there just in case. Last year, we only used about $6,000 or $7,000 of the $30,000. So it's there just in case, but it helps keep the total cost down. And that has worked out good for us over the past year. And as I understand, more and more agencies or companies are going to looking at HRAs as an opportunity. So that's kind of where we are. That's pretty much what's in your budget, except for as the value of employees and not receiving a raise in 4 years in your budget is showing a 1.5% increase to employees across the board. The Budget Committee is also proposing to reinstate the employees only, the education incentive to 100%. We cut it in half last year. So departments have made some cuts in their budget, and we thought that since those individuals spent time, many of them on their own schedule, getting that status, we restored and proposing to restore that to 100% of that amount. The maximum amount for each employee, once they get to that phase, is a 3 or 4 tier phase that they get once they get certified. The max is $1,500. So that's kind of where it is. So you'll see from last year it was half. This year it's restored back to the 100%. That is being proposed by the Budget Committee. So that's kind of a recap of where we are with the budget. It definitely shows a little bit better position than we were last year, but it shows that we are much further down than we need to be. We need roughly 1.5 projected in the fund balance going in to make sure we don't get in a borrowing phase. One of the things that I have, one impact that we've had with low fund balance is definitely will impact your rating. Rating is down from where it was. Secondly, on grants that are offered to the county, whether it be for homes, restoration, things of that nature, most of them have a matching amount that goes with that. We don't have it, so I don't fill out the application because the matching funds are not there. Next, as we work to try to get businesses in, we have been working 3 different areas here of late, and one is the Boys Camp Conference Center, Chip and Grind.